All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to today's Explainer, which is essentially a survival guide designed specifically for you. If you're an independent artist, maybe a rogue scientist, a writer, or an inventor, and you rely on external funding to fuel your life's work, you absolutely need to hear this. We almost always think of grants and awards as the ultimate goal, right? Like they're these golden tickets that will finally give us the total freedom to just create. But what if the very things designed to support your work are actually fundamentally changing it? Today, we're going to unpack the dense, frankly fascinating psychology behind the novelty generation process, and we are drawing directly from some really comprehensive research on creative professionals. I want to kick things off with a pretty visceral warning. When the poet W.D. Snodgrass won the Pulitzer Prize, his friend and colleague Anne Sexton didn't just send him a generic congratulations card, she sent him a profound caution. She literally wrote, "To hell with their prize and their fame. You have got to sit down now and write more real. Write me some blood. That is why you were great in the first place. Don't let prizes stop you from your original courage, the courage of an alien." It's a really striking sentiment, isn't it? She saw an immediate, tangible danger in the exact thing society tells us we should strive for.
And that leads us straight into this central paradox. Does society's ultimate validation actually destroy your creativity? It frames a really high-stakes reality for any independent creator. Think about it. You spend years in isolation trying to discover something new, just hoping for an organization or a publisher or a grant committee to finally validate what you're doing. But the second they do, you enter a total psychological minefield. The validation you've been desperately seeking might actually be a trap that alters exactly why and how you create.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The danger of winning. 2. Anatomy of a novelty. 3. Grants versus honorary awards. 4. The psychological traps. 5. Stereotypes in funding. And finally, 6. Your strategy for support.
Section 1. The danger of winning.
We really need to completely challenge the common assumption that winning prestigious awards is the ultimate boost to your creative energy, because the research indicates that external evaluations, even highly positive ones, don't necessarily foster psychological health or an openness to your own experience. We assume an award is going to inject us with endless energy, but listen to the words of Sylvia Plath. She desperately wanted acceptance from editors and critics, but she recognized that receiving it ironically froze her. She said it corrupted her nunnish labor of work for itself as its own reward. This right here is the core conflict for the independent creator. It's that massive collision between your internal drive and external social judgment. In psychological terms, this is known as the over-justification effect, and it is absolutely crucial to grasp. It's a phenomenon where external rewards and evaluation actually decrease a person's intrinsic motivation to perform a task. It's like a kid who loves drawing, but abruptly stops drawing for fun the very moment you start paying them for every picture. If you're a creator, you might start asking yourself, am I creating this because I'm intrinsically driven to find something new, or am I just doing it for the reward, for the grant, for the applause? And once that seed of doubt is planted, it acts as a massive constraint on your raw creativity.
Section 2. Anatomy of a novelty.
To figure out how funding actually disrupts creativity, we first kind of have to pop the hood on how creativity works mechanically. This research breaks down some pretty dense academic theory into a practical framework called the novelty generation model, and it separates creating something new into 3 distinct steps. Step 1 is novelty seeking, which is just that raw desire to seek out the unknown. Step 2 is creativity, the actual production of the new finding. But step 3 is where things get super complicated. That's innovative performance. Now, in this academic context, innovative performance means your ability and willingness to receive social recognition for your potential novelties. You can be highly creative in a vacuum, completely isolated, but innovation requires society to recognize and validate your work. And it's precisely at this 3rd step where funding mechanisms interject.
Section 3. Grants versus honorary awards.
This right here is the great divide in how society funds independent creators. And as the research proves, the type of funding you receive matters immensely to your subsequent performance. There is a stark dichotomy between grants and honorary awards. Grants provide what's called instrumental support. They give you the actual financial tools to create before or during the creative act, and they usually require you to proactively apply. Honorary awards, on the flip side, are validational support. They bring heavy public recognition, high status, maybe a big cash prize, but they are nomination-based and awarded post-performance, long after the work is already done. As you can imagine, they serve totally different psychological functions for you as a creator.
Section 4.
The psychological traps.
So, to move beyond just theory, researchers actually conducted a massive longitudinal study of over 1,000 writers to uncover the surprising data-backed reality of these awards. They tracked innovative performance before and after receiving different types of support, and the data reveals a truly shocking reality about the funding establishment. Out of thousands of grant and award events analyzed, a mere 1.8% were explicitly designated to support truly original, novel initiatives, literally less than 2%. The vast majority, 98.2%, were designated for general achievement or quality. What this tells us is that award systems heavily incentivize conforming to established norms rather than rewarding radical, deviating novelty.
The study also found that honorary awards, despite carrying the most financial weight and public importance, rarely stimulate future innovation. Instead, they just act as a capstone. They're largely a public response to past success and high market proliferation. In fact, receiving an honorary award is basically just the establishment saying, hey, you've reached the peak according to our current norms. It's society showing up with a shiny trophy long after the actual innovating is done. It doesn't functionally serve to spark the creation of the radically new. Grants, applied for beforehand, were the only support type found to actually stimulate an increase in innovative performance over time.
Section 5. Stereotypes in funding.
We also have to neutrally examine the data on who actually benefits from these support mechanisms. The research highlights how systemic stereotypes interfere with the transformation of a novelty into recognized innovative performance. And the longitudinal data reveals a really divergent reality. Look at this. After receiving a main grant, male creators experienced a clear upward trajectory in innovative performance. However, for female creators, the performance line goes the exact opposite way. It actually decreases. Despite receiving the exact same instrumental support through the grant, the outcome and recognized innovative performance completely diverged based on gender. The researchers interpret these findings as evidence of what they termed the Sylvia Plath effect. It addresses the immense psychological toll of navigating intense social barriers and negative stereotypes. Think about it. By the time members of a negatively stereotyped group overcome all those institutional hurdles to finally secure a grant, the sheer effort required can leave them creatively exhausted or completely self-paralyzed afterward. Yes, the grant provides the money, but it cannot instantly erase the psychological friction of the systemic barriers they had to push through just to get it in the first place.
Section 6. Your strategy for support. Okay, so now that we understand the psychological mechanisms and we've seen the institutional data, how do you actually protect your intrinsic motivation? The research suggests a rapid-fire checklist of self-reflection to assess your own ecosystem. Let's run through it. First, do external awards and the pursuit of them paralyze your intrinsic motivation? Are you writing or inventing for the prize? Or are you doing it for the discovery? Second, are you substituting family or private support because you refuse to engage with institutional funding? And third, are you proactively applying for instrumental grants, the ones which actually stimulate innovation, instead of passively waiting around for honorary awards that might just trap you in your past successes? I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. What does success actually look like for your own creative process? Because if ultimate societal validation might ironically freeze your original courage, just like Anne Sexton warned, then you have the power to redefine your relationship with the funding establishment right now. Seek the instrumental support you absolutely need to build your vision, for sure, but ruthlessly guard the intrinsic joy of your nunnish labor. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating research with me. I'll catch you in the next explainer.